There we go. Recording in progress. I'm going to let you get us started.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here at our March tab meeting. And we have us tonight, Mr. Randy Pierce, and President Aaron Tompkins, Nancy Kane, Larry Sam, Ms. Andy Howell, myself, Mary Shea, and Christina Babcock is with us virtually. And a possible arrival later of board member Bernice Hyman. So, do we have any corrections or additions to the December 2021 meeting minutes? Anything that you interested in that? Okay. Guess we're not voting since
No quorum here tonight.
And how about the March agenda? Any other comments on the March agenda for this evening's meeting?
I have a couple of comments.
Okay.
I'm going to move things around if you guys don't mind, because we are very short of board members tonight. And B, we have a couple of things that I think probably warrant being moved to the top.
Okay.
I know Christina has to leave a little early, 6:20. And so I want to make sure that we have a couple of, I want to move driver shortage to our number one conversation. 4.1 would be driver shortage. I want to have our second conversation be the operations contract. June 30th. Speaking of, I don't see our operations manager has logged on. Nancy, do you know if he had planned to? I also want to talk about our electric vehicle purchase as probably 4.3. And 4.4, I want to talk about the next STIF plan. And honestly, I think those four things are going to probably take us through the meeting.
Okay. So is that the state and STF funding?
Yeah. I should probably also talk about RFP for the ITS equipment if we have, let's make sure that I have time before 7 o'clock actually. Okay. So I just completely destroyed our agenda, but and I'm also, I will tell you, going to be pretty casual tonight, not just because we are short board members, but also the things that we're talking about are pretty fluid at the moment. So they're pretty fresh and changing. And so, yeah, I'm just going to be pretty casual.
Okay. Also absent is our city council liaison, Mayor Stan William. Did I get everybody?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So go ahead and start with that. Very important issue of driver.
So driver shortage, you guys might have read in the Sandy Post recently that we are, and you probably have seen if you're on Facebook or Twitter, or you check us regularly or look at the Double Map app, that we are having a pretty serious driver shortage. Other agencies have been canceling service for a while now. TriMet canceled their service by 9% last I checked. Correct me if I'm wrong, Christina, but I think last I checked it was around 9% or so. We were doing pretty good until about end of, well, I guess maybe beginning of January. We had 2 drivers on the Mount Hood Express service quit, and then also, you know, Omicron went through and several people got sick. And so we felt the pain of that for a while, just between people being sick. We've also had quite a bit of just unfortunate circumstances. We had a driver lose her mom and another driver lose a couple of children, grown children, but nevertheless. And so obviously they're out for a while. Most of that driver shortage has impacted the county service, especially since 2 of the drivers that left permanently were on that service. And it's, as you can imagine, a really difficult route to drive. So, and we do typically in the winter, they add service, they add hours. It's stressful. We lose a couple drivers from that service every year. We kind of expected. These 2 we did not expect, and they were here for a while. No, Ben left. Yeah, he was here, I don't know, 7 years. Between the stress of COVID, he decided it was time for him to yeah. I wouldn't say retire, but the last message I got from him was, I'm ready to move out where it's really rural. No one is around. Okay. So, and then Ed, I don't know if you know Ed, Heather, but he only drove the mountain and he'd been here about 3 years, 2 years, 3 years. Yeah. And he was going to retire in October anyway. And just the stress of life in general these days, he decided to retire early.
How far up does the Mountain Express go?
It was all the way to Timberline Lodge.
Oh, it does.
Yes, and so that last leg on Timberline Road is
Yeah, it's stressful.
it's pretty stressful.
Right, I thought.
Driving a bus.
You're putting chains on.
Yeah.
Right.
Put it up and taking chains off when you put it down.
Mm-hmm. Their buses, Christina, not to speak to you and feel free to jump in, but their buses, so Christina is with the county.
Okay.
Their buses are, especially in the winter, full. I mean, really, really full.
Mhm.
They have regulars who work at the resorts on the mountain that completely rely on Mountain Express. And then they also have, you know, the tourist and the recreation aspect. And so,
How many trips a day do they make up there?
8 trips a day.
Wow.
Chains on, chains off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I will also say on behalf of our drivers, they're wonderful. They're very professional. When there is an accident, and there are typically an accident or 2, it's other drivers who aren't used to being in the snow will slide into a bus or things of that nature. So you have that aspect too of the other people who aren't used to driving on snow that they have to look out for in their big vehicles.
Does it go year round?
It does, yeah. So in the summer they pull bike trailers.
Oh, yes.
And there's-
Yeah.
And again, they get packed and a lot of trailers get put on. So they typically add service in the winter. It's been really hard lately to keep up with that. But yeah, they operate year round. They take 2 days off for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And then their schedule remains the same year round.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but they've been hit pretty heavily. One of the things that we've kind of done to help with both of our service, with their service, obviously Mountain Express is, you know, the big workhorse of their service, just like Sam to Gresham is our big workhorse. And so those are the 2 routes we really, if we have to shuffle people around, those are the routes that we don't want canceled, right? So try not to cancel Sam, try not to cancel Mountain Express. So they've had quite a bit of village shuttle routes and runs canceled recently. I know it's very, and do you guys have 3 or 4 village shuttle runs right now, Christina? 4. Yep. Okay. I could just ask Muna so you don't have to unmute. So they've had quite a few village shuttle. That only goes to rhododendron and can deviate from its route. So it's more geared towards people who can't make it to a bus stop, whereas Mountain Express only stops, it's a commuter express, so it doesn't stop a whole lot. Village shuttle does the more of the day-to-day, get people who live there down to Sandy to shop and get their services, etc. So
How many drivers do you have right now?
it's a great question.
Oh,
15? No way.
There's 19 employees, so wait, so take away 3, 4, 5, so 14.
Yeah. So we would be fully staffed at 19, but still looking for others to fill in for vacations and sick, etc. And we're at 14. They, to be fully staffed, should have 7, and they're currently at 3. Yeah, so what we're doing is we shuffle drivers around, cancel where we can, and then have Mountain Express kind of try to pick up the village shuttle if it's canceled. We've also been having to cancel Star quite a bit, make it life-sustaining only, and send dispatch out. And then if we're here, we step in, or there have been days that we come in on the weekends or whatever to help cover. Muna and Nancy both are great about when voice messages are left for dispatch, we get them sent to our emails. And so they, even when they're home, nights, weekends, etc., will help watch the voicemails come in, listen to them. And then if it's a callback, like an ADA callback, they'll send a message to dispatch and say, you have a callback and they need to be picked up at Safeway. And you have until whatever time. So yeah, they're amazing. They're amazing. So we are, I'm going to segue that into our ops contract, in that obviously we really need drivers. And MV did, so we contract out. So we are the 3 city employees. She's a county employee. We contract out for dispatchers, operations managers, drivers, with a company called MV Transportation. We go out every 5 years, more often if we have to, but we go out for an RFP and we go through a whole process. People have to, vendors bid, and then contractors are awarded the contract. So the way our contracts work is, not quite 2 years ago, we went out for a new contractor, and MV was awarded the contract. That contract was set for 2 years, and then for the last 3 years of the contract, we have to renegotiate every year. And if we can't agree, then we have to go back out for an RFP. So we're in the negotiation process, which should have ended 2 months ago to give us time for an RFP. It's not coming together. We thought we had it together. They're in what, January or February, Christina. We thought we had maybe an agreed upon rate that we considered acceptable, but they had some of our revenue service hours incorrect, and we pointed that out, and long story short, they came back with much higher numbers. They came back, we are currently paying $60.47 an hour for every hour that any bus is out. Yep, it's a lot. We used to pay about 49 just a couple of years ago. But let's all remember that 49 wasn't really cutting it. So currently, and I brought it for us to show, and it's not very big even on our screen, but what they have suggested is $86 a revenue hour for the county. And $76.73 for the city. Yeah, so I'm sorry, I didn't share my screen, Christina, but you've seen it, so I won't worry about sharing it. Actually, you know what? I will share it so that we can talk about it for a minute.
I mean, what's the options?
So the county said no. We're not doing $86. That is too much of an increase. We have to go back out and put an RFP out and do our due diligence and see if there's another contractor available for less. I will also say that we did, because of our driver issues and because of the economy we're in, part of our increase in the way is that we asked for higher wages. So right now we hire at $18.53, and that's if you have a CDL, and that's not bringing anyone in the door at all. That's tough.
Yeah, I mean, you have, you know, Papa Murphy's advertising $21 an hour plus tips. I mean,
Right.
They
Yeah,
ain't chaining up vehicles going over the mountain in the snow. I mean, yeah, that's
Right.
gonna be a tough order to fill.
exactly. So the county also did agree to add $4 an hour to Mount Hood Express drivers right now. Of course, not only does government run slowly, but getting the contract in place and getting the agreement with MV and what, you know, how that would work and what the fee would be to do that, et cetera, took a while. So they just got the paperwork signed, and here we are, you know, at March. So about at the end of the season where we need it. But so we do have at least the ability to add $4 an hour to the start pay of Mount Hood Express drivers going forward. So hopefully that will bring some through the door.
What will they be starting at with the CDL?
So they would be at like 23, so, you know, 23.53 or somewhere around there. It's still not great. I don't know that that's going to cut it either.
Wages are horrible, right?
They really are. Yeah.
You know, and everybody is crying for help, and everybody is asking more than they ever thought they would get, and everybody's paying more than they thought they would pay. Because the shortage of workers or something. So
Yep.
So has MV talked about it, explaining more of some of the nuts and bolts behind the large increase?
Yeah, so we've done a lot of back and forth, and we requested this budget, actually was very helpful. So
I think we're not the only bus company having this problem.
we're really not. Like I said, I mean, even TriMet with their really high wage that they pay is having issues, but they kind of put some notes over here to tell, I mean, from their viewpoint, because we asked for increased wages, that means they not only have to consider the increased wages, but they have to increase workman's comp insurance, and they have to, they've added another $53,000 or $57,000 for an HR blitz to bring people in. Yeah. I can't remember what else they said. Again, the revenue hours that they miscalculated was part of the reason that it was such a shock. But down here it says staff changes and wage increases added 25% to labor cost, driver wage increase and service hour rates. Let's see, liability insurance increased there. So they pay us a payroll tax, us meaning the city of Sandy, because they're a business operating in the city of Sandy. The payroll tax increases because it's based on wages. Workman's comp increases due to increased wages. Then there's some office and operational expenses that they say amount to another 21,000. And then here's the 57,000 that they think they need for recruiting and training. So that's a $555,000 increase for the year. So the city requested a standalone rate. What would it be? County's already said no. What if the city were here by themselves going into a contract with you, what is our new rate. They haven't come back officially with that, but unofficially it goes from $76.73 to $84.50. There are other, we talked to Canby, as you all know, we all of us providers are really a close working collaborative group. And today we were in a meeting and we were talking to Canby about their contract, their service. They have about 20,000 revenue service hours, which is what about Sam has. And they are at a $76 rate right now. And then next year it goes to $80 and something. So ours is higher than that. And their response was that they're really happy that they're not negotiating a contract right now because, yeah, it's really difficult to do. So, I requested so our contract, as you asked earlier, is up June 30th. And that's not enough time to put out an RFP and get a new contractor in here. It's also not enough time for us to continue negotiations. We have to stop that because it's not working. So I requested a 3-month extension to our contract when it's up, taking us into September, which would give us time to either negotiate better and see if we can get a better rate. Don't think so, not from MP. They sound like they're pretty set and these are our costs, especially if we want to continue with our relationship with the county, which we do. So the county then requested maybe MV said no extension. They will not give us an extension to the contract. So then the county has reached back out and requested an extension, but at the higher rate that they seem to be interested in. So what I'm hoping happens now is that we end up with an extension so that we have time to put out an RFP and make sure that we do our due diligence and we are getting the absolute best service for our public funding as possible and getting the best rate as possible. We want to renegotiate how our contract is written and how we're billed during that process as well. And maybe we can continue to have conversations with MV and the county and see if there are ways that we can come to some, figure out something that we can do that we can afford and keeps our current contractor here. But we can't continue to have those conversations without an extension and probably without an RFP. Hey, Stan, watch my cord. Thank you. There's one of our Mount Hood Express drivers right there. Woohoo! So that's kind of really dire news, to be honest. I mean, it's kind of consuming our time administratively at the moment. We also, I want to share that we do always speak with our finance department and check to see what it would cost if we pulled everybody in-house and they were actual city employees. The city and the county have been talking back and forth for quite a while about what if the city took over the service and contracted with, the county could just contract us instead of a business. There are pros and cons always to pulling things in-house. And, we have this conversation a lot, and it would take a lot of a heavy lift to convince council, since they're our governing body, that is something that is, necessary. We would really have to show that we're going to save we're gonna save money by doing it. So this is just to give you an idea. Back in January, and Christina, I don't think I've shared this with you yet, so this is new to you too, but this is a very rough draft of when I sent the finance department and said, can you just every year, let's fill this in. I put in the numbers of how many I think we need. So we could do 3.
Annie, I can't see what you see.
Huh?
I can't see what you see. I'm just seeing the proposed budget by MV.
Oh, really? Okay, sorry. Thank you for telling me that. You know, they tried those quite a while ago. And what I've been told, and again, Christina, if I overspeak or say something that you think is not correct, tell me. But what I understand is that our type of snow here, they just didn't work very well, and they broke really quickly. And so they were spending a lot of money fixing them.
Are you talking about drop down chains? I didn't hear the question.
Yeah.
Drop down chains are not a good application for what we do. They get wrapped around axles and they bust, and it's not a good application.
So I know, wouldn't that be great? If it could just like, or just transform into a sled or tanks or something, you know, but yeah, it's not a good option, unfortunately, for us. And so these are the numbers in-house. Can you see that now? Awesome. So I just said if we had 3 non-CDL, this is where I think they would land in the city's pay scale. This is the hourly rate where they would begin. So that's, you know, the pay scales always have steps. This is step 1. This is the fully loaded cost. So if somebody makes $18.92 an hour, that's actually about $29.33 that the city pays when you add the benefits, etc. And this is the, you know, full-time at 3 positions cost. So what I've done here is I've said 9 CDL drivers at this wage. Mount Hood Express is at a different wage. Let's give them 6 of those at this higher rate. We have 3 dispatchers, we have a mechanic, we have a bus washer, and we probably would need 2 management positions. This is kind of a guess, to be honest, and it would depend. This could be a slightly higher than what I've put in here. This then becomes Sam's cost for the year just in personnel, and this is the county's. Overall, that's about a $62 revenue an hour, $62.50 overall. But it's about $60 for the city and about $67.50 for the county, which is significantly different, obviously, than, you know, 86. But there's a lot of things that are not included in here. Watch my cord, Dan. Thank you. Which is, so this would definitely increase. This just gives us an idea in wages, because we would still have to get insurance for both. The city used to carry our own insurance. We've currently asked our contractor to do it. When we did it, it was about $56,000 a year, and I'm sure that's gone up in the past 2 years. So I said 100,000. It might be about what it is at a year. Transit pays the city in transfer costs to be here. Some of those transfer costs are based on FTE positions for things like HR, payroll, IT, legal. We pay into city council, etc. Those costs, because they're based on FTE, would obviously go up. They're not only based on FTE, but it is part of the allocation, so that would go up as well. And then we'd have to enter in things like uniforms and supplies and drug and alcohol testing. So there's quite a bit of other things besides wages that we'll have to sit down and also factor in, and they will probably all go up. We did this,
Andy,
yeah.
can you let me in on my phone? I gotta switch devices here. My computer.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So, we did this 2 years ago, and I will say at the time, I was very, very interested. You there? You okay?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. We were very interested in pulling it in and what that looked like. Again, I will say that I have big visions for the transit department. We have the ability, because of where we're located, to be a regional provider and have the county contract with us. So we could act as their operator and help offset some of Sam's city costs. So we looked at this a couple of years ago, and COVID hit right when we were starting to think about possibly moving it in, and even moving maybe just like the mechanic and the bus washer in, because that's our capital equipment. So it makes sense for the city to have their own employee overseeing our capital equipment rather than a contractor. And the rest of the city could also take advantage of having an in-house mechanic. As you guys know, we are really dependent on independent diesel on our vehicles, and there was a little hiccup in that relationship for about a year, and it really hit our budgets hard, both of them, because we had to have a mobile diesel mechanic come in, and it was, yeah. So I'd like to get ahead of that and have options. So even a couple years ago, we were really floating, pulling in at least the, kind of the maintenance mechanics. And then after that, seeing about pulling drivers in, and then COVID hit, and I could not risk the chance of higher costs due to PERS and other things hitting us down the line. And so we stuck with what we were able to have, which has worked really well. And it's nice having a contractor. There are a lot of really great things about having a contractor. But there are also some really great things about having your own employees and being able to manage the hiring and firing and things of that nature yourself. So,
Kind of a related question. Just out of
yes,
curiosity.
ma'am.
So I know long ago when we were working on the West Farm Wash revitalization, Public Works and CMPD, they're currently using it?
The bus wash? No,
No.
not really. They do use it occasionally. They don't use it as much as we do.
I was wondering if that was possible.
They do actually help pay for repairs and maintenance on the bus wash because it belongs to this building and it was purchased with the understanding that it would be available citywide. But a lot of people, us and the police department is one, they really still like to wash by hand.
They do. Huh.
Yeah, so so it's not as used. It's a pretty powerful bus wash. I mean, it's yeah, it's not an easy, it's a beast of a machine. So it's not a, I'm going to come in and use this every, 3 or 4 months and remember what I'm doing kind of thing. Christina, I see that you're in your car. So, and I know that you had to go in 5 minutes. Do you have anything that you need to share with us? And I'm going to let you jump off.
I don't think so. You've encapsulated it pretty well. I didn't realize my video was on. Sorry. So no, I think you did a good job, and I will continue to listen as I drive to my destination.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Be safe. Okay. So, did I kind of cover that well enough, you think, to
Questions about how I would plan with the COVID still a big factor as far as mutations coming along. They don't know if we'll go back into masks and all this stuff. Plus, they're predicting a recession.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was wondering how that's all going to play out with us trying to do contracts.
Good question, because I wonder too. I will say that during COVID, the federal government did really step up to the plate for transit in general. They recognized that we stopped charging fares, that ridership was decreased. So as you guys know, we got quite a bit of CARES Act funding, which helped quite a bit. Christina and I had a conversation today about there's another round of needs-based CARES Act funding available to transit in Oregon because they still have funding available that if we can, there's some stipulations. So I'm not sure if I'll be able to, but if we can, we'll put in for more CARES Act funding to kind of shore up our losses in fares that we've experienced the past couple of years. And now because ridership's down. I will also say when you see our ridership numbers being down, part of the reason is because we have driver shortages. So we only have one driver doing SAM rides instead of two. We only have one driver doing ED rides instead of two. And sometimes we don't have them at all. We put it on life sustaining, meaning if they're going to a doctor's appointment, dialysis, work, and they're disabled, then dispatch will step in and do it, and we'll step in the dispatch. But it's hurting our ridership to not have the drivers to be able to meet the need that's out there. Again, we try to keep SAM as whole as possible, but our demand response rides are really, really down right now. It's really hard. I was contacted by a social services woman today because a very regular client of ours is having a hard time scheduling to get to dialysis. And, she wanted to check in and because that's not like us. And I said, I know, I'm sorry, we are booked. So, yeah. Like a full circle.
The volunteers, I'm sure, the senior programs in the county are way down as well.
I'm not sure they even have any anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll tell you the truth, as a volunteer driver, I enjoyed it, but it was putting so many miles on my car, I was losing out on it. Because they give you a stipend, it's supposed to cover the gas, but it doesn't cover the maintenance.
Right.
And
Yeah,
so-
there were a lot of people, they lost a lot of people during COVID, and a lot of people when they started up again, because you guys know, we covered Meals on Wheels for them for about 9 months, one driver. Because even when they took volunteers, there were so many things they had to go through, wiping down, the meals and wearing masks, and that a lot of people just didn't want to do that either. Yeah. Oh, and that's Chrysler. She's new, so she's gonna have a very deer in the, get ready for a deer in the headlights look, everybody. Hi. Watch the cord, watch the cord. Thank you. But funding wise, as you all know, because you've been around here for a while and on the board for a while, Sam has always been very shoestring staff and very frugal, and so we do have a healthy reserve. We're lucky to have it. There will be decisions to be made though, because we'll have to decide about, typically our reserve is meant for a rainy day, but also meant for capital. And there's a lot of capital projects I'd like to take on right now that I'm not sure if we can. So that's an answer to your funding and how is it going to happen. And then we did get a bump in our federal funding that we always get. I mean, the 5311 that we get. We got a bump for 2 years. So our federal funding was increased. And then we, as I said, we did have the CARES Act funding get bumped as well. We're still waiting to hear if we get our FLAP funding. If we do, they are waiving the match. So that'll be really helpful. FLAP pays for 4 hours every Saturday morning and all of our Sunday service, which is 8 months on Sunday.
And who's supplying that?
It's federal and
Okay.
it's Federal Lands Access Program. So we apply, it's through Federal Highway. It's not common that transit gets that type of funding. It's becoming more common because Mountain Express gets quite a bit of funding through it and we get funding. And so other people are seeing that
Very good.
and applying. Yes, it is great. It is great. I believe FLAP covers about 40% of Mountain Express's funding.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah, it's a very big deal for them. So,
How about this federal transit boost funding? Is that part of CARES, when they put it in with CARES, or is it something separate?
so we did get some, it's called IIJA. There is transit funding in it that we will see. And rural services are included in that. The state is still deciding, so they I don't have the pie in front of me. They have a nice little pie and there's 35% of that funding coming from the federal government that they're allowing states to decide how to spend it. The Oregon Transportation Commission will make that decision and they're taking public input right now. I think it just closed. And I believe because transit has, most of the meetings I have been to, because transit has already received quite a bit of boost in CARES Act funding, and a little boost through that funding, that they're looking to put that 35% a little more in the bike ped, sidewalks, funding pots instead of transit. Yeah. Well, and that helps, right? I mean, if you can have a sidewalk like from Vista Loop down the highway, then you can get to a bus stop. But if you don't have a sidewalk, then you're probably not going to take public transit. So.
Just like all the people that have been killed on the cost are kind of a lot.
Right. Yeah.
I was so ecstatic to hear finally construction starting.
I know it's taken a while. So that funding actually for those sidewalks was awarded the same time our bus barns. It was the same grant process, which was applied for in 2013, approved in 2015, released for us in 2017. We built the bus barns by 2019, December 2019, December 20.
It was
20, because we're in 22.
Because, yeah.
Yeah, and we got an extension because of COVID.
We were.
That's right. Yeah. So, same process, same funding, but they've had a lot of hiccups with ODOT on the sidewalk. So they're just now breaking ground.
Where's that?
Vista Loop Apartments. So when you leave town and you're headed out and there's a yellow apartment complex on your left. Yes, heading east, sorry. Before Calamity Janes or Johnson RV.
Oh, way out there.
Way out there.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. So it's low income. It was built for migrant
Mhm.
workers and it's low income apartment housing complex.
Okay. I know
Yeah.
where you're referring.
Yep. So they're putting a sidewalk in from there down to, it'll connect right in front of the police station, has a little sidewalk.
Mhm.
A lot of chicken out there.
There is.
There are, yep. Agreed. Yeah.
It's families walking that. On the other side of the guardrail all the time, it's just terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, we've tried to do quite a bit of connecting with Vista Loop to try and get ridership up. And until we get a very regular route out there, I don't know that they will ride transit until it's regular,
Yeah.
which is in our master plan, but it's kind of expensive because it's out there.
We're not used to having sidewalks everywhere, and
Mhm.
they're used to the age. We're not. Scares us.
Yeah. So, so FYI, I will keep you very informed about our contract, and hopefully you will hear good news from us soon. As I said, we obviously want to keep our contract with the county and together and go through the RFP processes. Christina and I have talked for a long time about having the city be the one contract holder, actually, even before Christina came on with the county. Luna and I, you know, in dreamland, we're like, yeah, it could be one, we can take over that that contract, not take over that service, but take over that contract and really streamline a lot of processes so that the contractor doesn't have to go through, you know, have two different authorities they have to check with and go through. And then there's some really like financial benefits too, that handling invoices, having vehicles maintenance and those types of things that we could, I think, find some real efficiencies by having one provider.
Now, supposedly, people are still supposed to be wearing masks when they're on buses.
Mm-hmm,
Is this an issue for the drivers?
mm-hmm, it is. Yeah, it's been an issue for a long time. People are done and they don't want to wear masks. And I don't blame them. I don't really want to either. Yep. And it makes it even harder when you can go into Fred Meyer without a mask, but then you get on a bus and we make you wear a mask. The federal government believed very strongly in masks, and so they did tie it to our funding, that if we are not enforcing the mask mandate, we can lose our federal
Okay,
funding.
what enforcement is having a sign saying, please wear your mask or not, or do you have to strong on people?
Yeah, they have to get off.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, so it's gonna end April 18th is the good news. We were hoping it was March 18th, but CDC said April 18th. And the FTA has not said any different.
Variants will pop up too strong.
If they don't extend it again, yeah. So right now, after April 18th, they won't have to enforce it anymore. It has been an issue. I haven't heard much lately. Have you guys?
I was gonna say, I was expecting to hear a lot after they lowered the mask mandate, and honestly, haven't. I think
Yeah.
they've probably done enough communication that people just know what they gotta do.
Well, I know I don't have to wear the wall places, so I will put it on going through doorways and stuff, because there can't be 4 feet of people going through doorways.
True.
And the church just, the last week, nobody wore a mask going through the doorway except me.
Yeah, I was actually at a volleyball tournament this weekend and I was surprised. There were a lot, even team players that were still playing, but and wearing masks. But yeah, it's a choice now unless you're on public transit. That's my choice. Or if you're in healthcare. Yes, my daughter went to the orthodontist yesterday and we had to wear a mask. So I'm going to actually skip to, even though I did this to us, I'm going to skip to the STIF plan because I want to give a good demonstration of why it's so important that the county and the city continue to work together. And that is, we lost Christina. And that is that it is in Sandy's master plan to start the route from Sandy to Clackamas Town Center. I have put that route. So we have a coordination meeting with TriMet, who is our QE through STIF. And I have requested funding for that route through that process. So not out of our own STIF funds, but out of the pot in general. So the coordination money comes, so STIF money comes to our QE, who is TriMet. And then there are projects that are called coordination projects. And they are basically agencies who bring service into TriMet. That funding, which last round was set at 2 million, their board will have, their STIF board will have the conversation about whether or not to expand those funds. So we just met and I put that route on that project list. It's got a lot of support. It's got a lot of support from the Clackamas providers. It'll run through Boring and Damascus that currently don't have any service. So it'll help give them a lifeline. So I feel pretty strongly that it'll get funded. And probably be able to start July 1 of 2023.
Wow.
And then where would the route?
And there's a vehicle included. So we would, the vehicle would be funded and the operations would be funded.
The route will go through Boring and Damascus, and it will probably turn off for that line that's coming soon from,
It'll turn off onto Sunnyside,
where?
onto Sunnyside. It'll go in through Sunnyside Road. 212 and then Sunnyside.
Well, route 212, that's one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we've actually throughout the years been contacted by businesses and people in Boring
Well, there's an awful lot of
looking
people
for
out there that
transit.
applies for insurance. You have to hear that.
Yes, exactly. So actually when I was surprised because when we did the transit master plan, that was a recommended route by our consultant. And I thought, oh, we'll see. And it was the public really, that was one of the highest rated. Yes, we would like that. And that's what a lot of them said. I could get to my doctor, I can take a bus and get to the services I need.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, which exactly gives a lot of connection. We then can connect to Wilsonville and we, get to Salem and it gives us,
It's getting boring in Damascus.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
yeah. And having it fund through that process would work really well for the city because it's,
Well,
it's
it certainly takes on the traffic off. Before, the traffic is
traffic's
horrible.
terrible. I know. Yeah,
And most of those people driving alone in their cars because there is no bus service.
right. Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully that will happen and it will happen through that funding process. Cross your fingers. Additionally, the county has asked if Sam would be willing to operate a service from Estacada to Clackamas Community College. So that is technically TriMet's district, but they don't want to run Redland Road because they will only use big buses, not small buses. And so the county would essentially contract with us to run it on their behalf. So again, the funding would not be city funded, it would be funded through STIF funds.
Is it that much demand?
Mhm. Yeah, actually Estacada, the city manager in Estacada actually talked to me about needing that service. And she told me a statistic, don't quote it because I'm not sure I remember exactly, but it was a really high percentage of their high school graduates that go then to community college, Clackamas Community College. I want to say it was really high.
So that would be what, 2 or 3 times a day?
It's actually in the county's development plan, and I don't remember how many times a day, but if I had to guess, it'd be more like 4 to 6.
Would that originate in Estacada or would it originate in Sandy? Because there's probably a lot of kids that graduate Sandy High School that go to Clackamas Community College.
So,
Actually, they do. You'd be correct. Yes.
well, Bodie went to Clackamas and now he's going to Portland, but, anyway, so that's a good question. When we talked to the county, we had a brief conversation about, so Sam has a service that goes to Estacada City Hall and back. And so we had a conversation about, and we're interlining that service probably if we get our flat funding, which I'm sure we will. Knock on wood, but I'm sure we will. Interlining that, which means we use the same bus and it becomes like one route to go to Estacada, come back, and then go do the village shuttle run up to Rhododendron, come back, go do the Estacada. So we had some conversation about extending that to the college. And then when we kind of worked, this was a quick, like, but it takes you 33 minutes to go from Estacada to Clackamas Community College. And by the time you do this one, it would be a really long route. So we'll have to work on the logistics to see. We could possibly have our bus go from Estacada and then Estacada, or we could just run it like a circulator, and it's probably what we'll do. We'll just have it meet our bus at City Hall. They'll transfer from one bus to the next. But you're right. I actually, when I became in this position, was shocked how many Sandy residents take our bus to go to Estacada High School and vice versa. It's about the same number. I mean, it's not a huge number, but it was surprising to me that for whatever reason, whatever the program is they're looking for, maybe they want a smaller school versus a big school, or they want this that's, you know, robotics here that's not there or whatever. But there's quite a bit of people who even take our bus just for high school reasons. So I can imagine we would have Sandy graduates that would then go take the bus to Estacada and then to.
They take from Estacada to Clackamas Community College. They wouldn't go up that windy road to Estacada, would they?
Redland Road, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I know, that's why I'm trying, that, not 224,
No.
no.
Yeah, so they cross the river and then get up to Springwater.
But it's still a pretty, yeah, it's why TriMet won't do it. But if we took a little bus instead of a big bus, you know, like probably not Ford Transit size, but probably like the Champion size, and ran it 4 to 6 times a day, I think it would be a pretty popular service. And again, the county would be paying for it. We would just do it on their behalf.
And we wouldn't have the route be Sandy, Estacada, CCC, come back, because it'd be too different. Or it'd be Sam and then it'd be the county.
We could still do it that way. We could operate it that way. It would just, behind the scenes, the funding would change once you hit, you know, like we used to interline Estacada and Village Shuttle. And we used to also interline Estacada and Sam on Sundays occasionally. And you just, behind the scenes, they know that it's Sandy's customer until you're at the transit center, and then it's the counties, and they keep the mileage and you divvy out the maintenance and all that good
So
stuff.
I thought Estacada already had TriMet service from there.
They have TriMet service. They have one line 30. And they just cut some of that service. That was part of their 9% because of driver shortage. But they do have one line, but it's only one line.
And to utilize that, say, to go to the college, would take you several hours. You'd have to transport and go in opposite directions.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's not a straight or even a semi. It's really.
And the frequency is almost what I thought.
Well, I've never seen it, the TriMet, I just heard of it.
Yeah.
I was thinking on the old highway and I'm coming in and out of Estacada, but I didn't know what its destination was from Estacada.
Do you know? I can't
get
really.
it close to the
I was-
town center.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to say it was either the town center or Oregon City, but the town center makes sense. Yeah. So there are people in Estacada that, even though that goes into Portland, they have to come into Sandy and then get on Sam to go into Portland, because to get to that end of Portland, I mean, it's not a very good connector route.
And it's probably.
They don't have a lot of access.
Getting where it runs along during off hours. Everybody places we need to be there.
Right. Which I mean, just from demographics and being around for a while, the Estacada route, the people who ride our Estacada route, that are from Estacada, work here in Sandy, or they're coming in for Fred Meyer. So that's a lot of what that
Well,
road is.
except that if we did go to college, Clackamas Community College, that we have more, it's from Sandy, we didn't go to
Mhm.
Clackamas Community College. Right now, it's not really that accessible.
Agreed.
Yeah. Unless they're driving, of course.
So, we have 20 minutes, so I'm gonna move us into the RFP for ITS equipment. We put out an RFP, so Randy, we have tablets on our buses that when passengers get on, the drivers, not only count the passengers, but tell us what demographics, et cetera, which is really important for funding. Funding is largely based on your ridership, your mileage. Some funding is only for senior citizens or persons with disabilities, and so it can only be used in that way, and you have to really demonstrate that you're helping that particular population. We have a lot of funding that's specific to certain vulnerable populations, so very, very important. But it also is how there's an app you can get on and know where the bus is, when it's coming, where to catch it. We can send alerts to passengers. So if Mountain Express got canceled, we can send an alert out through that app saying it's been canceled. So grab this one instead.
And this is all done, the driver does all this?
So if we send an alert out, that'll be sent by dispatch.
Okay.
But yes, it's done by the driver. And then that tablet has GPS in it, which is what tells the app.
What it's like for the passenger and the
Oh, mine is also, okay.
So you can,
They can see, and
you
then
can see the bus moving, know exactly where it is in real time.
Oh, very nice.
How long, I mean, it's,
and then it's different services, sorry.
Of course, that's what they don't have a map.
right?
Okay, very good.
So,
She's got a lot of legacies like this.
right? So, we put an RFP out for a new vendor. Double Map is no longer exists. They were bought by Ford. Ford now has a branch called Ford Mobility. And then it's a company called Transloc that is running it. They did bid on our RFP. They are a bidder. We have 3 vendors that we are going to have demonstrations with, but I will tell you that these have come in so high that we will probably go ahead and select a vendor, but it will be very painful to do so if we do. So when we got Double Map, it was all grant funded. It was $88,000, and that paid for all the equipment, including LED reader boards inside so that you can read your stops in case you can't hear it. Also automated announcements inside the bus. So for people who might be sight impaired and can't hear the driver, the Mountain Express buses are very loud. Maybe can't hear the driver. There's a speaker that tells you next stop is where you're at, next stop is, and so forth. We were able to equip 11 buses at the time. So we also equipped mountain buses and have 3 years covered with 88,000. Our lowest bid that has come in for 1 year, I believe, is 90,000.
For 11 buses.
Well, it's actually for 20 buses now. It's for 20 because it's the county's, it's ours. They're not going to reuse our equipment that we already bought. Yeah. And I will say they shouldn't, because what ended up happening, we bought the tablet with the GPS, and most of the systems at the time had a separate, what they call VLU box, vehicle location unit, that has the GPS in it that they connect to the tablet. And it turns out that that is much more accurate, and your data is better if you keep those separate. So it's probably a good thing to replace our tablets. A lot of things about double map that were supposed to happen did not work out. I just am not gonna say anything more than that on a live recording. And so, but it is about 90,000. The highest is 207,000.
For 1 year?
Is there any value in your old equipment?
Not according to the vendors. Now, could we sell it separately? Probably. We could probably, and as far as the LED readers and the automated announcements, that's probably will be fine and they'll be able to use that. But as far as the tablets themselves, no. But we could probably sell them, but for how much?
Right.
You know.
Well, you know, it's painful as all this is. Everything is going up, and it just is what it is.
Right. So we had a discussion with the evaluation committee and I said, do you want to scrap it? These are really expensive. And we all were like, what, even if we put it back out, we're not going to get better bids. These are from the vendors we expected to hear from. We expected a couple more. I reached out to one in particular that I thought would have bid. And they gave me a couple of reasons. One, that they did not, they personally did not bid because our project didn't fit their schedule. So they're like, we're a small enough company that not only could we not get the bid put together in time, but we couldn't have implemented in your time schedule. And he said he thinks part of that is a lot of money has gone to transit. So, and there are only a couple of companies that do this. So their plates are full and they also have short, staffing. So that's why they didn't bid. But he did say when we did the RFP, we were hoping that we would see cost savings by including other Clackamas County. So Clackamas County is included, not just Mountain Express, but Transportation Reaching People program is included. Canby is included. South Clackamas Transit District is included. So we thought we'd see cost savings by being able to buy in bulk and they would get 4 contracts instead of 1. And the company said that actually collaborative RFPs can turn some people off because it means everybody, like Canby doesn't have any tablets or equipment. So everybody's kind of in a different place. And then you're dealing with 4 contracts, not 1. And so some companies will just not bid on, it's just too complicated. So I may have made it, instead of saving us money, I may have whittled down our choices, but I did reach out to someone who had also recently put out the same RFP, but they're a bigger organization and requested their cost from companies that I would have expected to bid on ours, and it was the same range. So we will meet, I think we're doing demonstrations with the 3 possible vendors on the 28th, if we can schedule them, and then move forward and see if we select a vendor. But
We have a range number of how many double map users we have.
no, but I could find that out. That would be good. That would be beneficial to know, actually. We could get double map to run a report.
We were getting a monthly report. Do you know how I received it was? Way before Transwalk took over.
So like Dylan.
Well, not even Dylan, it was somebody else was gonna send it to me and I had to reach out and then send it to me and then they just kept sending it. I haven't got anything to Transwalk. I just get all these emails, like they don't even, they take forever to respond to the problem. I mean, Dylan was on it. He would call me and anything I said.
Double map did.
Right away.
Did have a really good response about when we had tablet issues, etc.
I'm sure that they don't know the product. They don't know how to respond. They probably do more themselves, I guess.
Yeah.
So what kind of, on that number, what, do you have an idea of what that number was when you were getting like the last report?
I can just,
Roughly.
oh my goodness, it's been a long time. I can grab it.
You think that's a really great feature. to have. And it helped for tracking.
Well, that's the feature I want. And that's what I hoped for when I got that grant. Is, you know, we were still keeping pencil to paper, and we still do. We do both still, because double map hasn't been reliable enough for me to let go. So it's pencil to paper, and then dispatch is entering the numbers. And I don't have without literally getting and going paper by paper, mark by mark, I can't just pull up a report that tells me our most popular stop. Which is what I really want. I really want to know ridership patterns. I want to know where, I mean, we know anecdotally, like, where our most popular stops are, but it's not easy for me to get to that information. That's what I want, because that's what I need for funding, for grant writing. And just so you know, we're very heavily funded by grants, which I'm sure you're thinking.
Yes. No, that's good.
Yes,
That's good.
yes, yeah,
And this data should be at your fingertips.
right, exactly.
Yeah, that was
I-
amazing when you said it wasn't.
Yes, so that's been from day one that I took that chair. I was like, I need this I need to be able to just produce a report. I want a little dashboard that tells me how my funding is, how my ridership is on a daily. And that's what I hoped when we put double map on. That was the first grant I got. That didn't work out.
Results.
Yeah, right. Yes, I am results driven. But the results aren't there. It's just not, it's not great. We can produce reports from it, and get an idea, but we can't 100% rely on it.
It's very, very, and there's not even a pattern to when it matches what it's crazy. But there are some good reports in there. We can, when someone calls in and says, your driver was speeding, we can look it up and say, well, they were actually only going, 25 miles an hour, and it's 25 an hour. So
Yeah, that part is amazing. Absolutely, all the time, all the time,
Yeah.
all the time. Yeah.
bigger, louder vehicle makes people think that they're speeding.
Yeah.
You know what ticks me off is people see those.
The last one I got was May 2020, and then I have emails to March, June, July, August, December of 2020 with no response.
And I think a lot of it. I think, is
Awesome, thank
because
you.
people don't know that it's a lot.
Right, it's been a year.
Yeah. Well, how many of those you ever get without-
217 in May.
You know, it takes a little-
217 in May.
And I'm sure there are sources that.
In May.
Of 2020.
Of 2020.
Oh, they're wanting.
Yeah, so it's been,
That's why I have my accident. I have to watch that.
I would guess it's more than then, because in May, it was still pretty new to two years in, maybe.
that was May 2020.
Because did we put double map on in 2017 or 2018? So it was still pretty new. 3 years ago, 2018,
I think that's right, 2018.
I mean,
and then an extra year. So 2018.
We have a lot of people. that-
July of
we
2018.
Get a lot of calls about it, like.
Right.
Your bus isn't showing
Yeah,
up,
we do.
or-
Well, and that is kind of the unfortunate, and I'm hoping that by not having the GPS in the tablet, it helps, because a lot of people, like, we have a negative review. I just saw like 3 negative reviews on Google, because I never go to Google. And they're talking about your tablets never work. And I'm thinking, gosh darn, I know they're talking about Mountain Express. I know it's not Sam, because it gets up on the mountain and, it might glitch out for a minute here or there if it doesn't have service, or you're never on schedule. And I'm like, Sam is always on schedule. Mountain Express is a different story because of traffic and weather, but we are always on schedule. But most people don't separate our services at all, which is a good thing. So I just feel like getting on there and saying, you're wrong. Thank you.
I thought it was all one service coming out of it.
We have
Yeah,
tried
I
really
have no
hard to give that perception, because the public should just get on a bus and know it's going to be okay. They shouldn't have to worry about who funds it or who runs it, or any of that.
Just that it's there.
Just that it's there and they can rely on it. And if it's not there, they can call the city, and the cities, those two are very responsive and on it. So I'm not as responsive. So, the only other thing, I'm sorry to just keep rolling, but I'm trying to be mindful of our time, and I did warn you, we're gonna be casual tonight, although I feel like I talk all the time anyway. Is our electric vehicle. So, I did reach out to Kimberly Stanchfield, who is a consultant. Oh, I should show you guys this. The library sent me this today. They want to do a partnership, and they want to put these in the channel cards of our buses so that people can get their library cards on our buses and or download a book and read while they are on the bus. Yeah, I thought so too. And we have Wi-Fi on these buses, so they could absolutely download anything from the library and read on their commute.
Love it.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Mhm.
Yes, your two worlds just collided. So I did reach out to Kimberly Stanchfield, who is a consultant and helps us buy vehicles, and asked her to find any and all American-made electric vehicles that are all-wheel drive. Because we have a little Ford Escape hybrid that's way past its life cycle, but the battery, we have the perfect service for it, so the battery is kept really well. The vehicle is in need to be replaced. It's, you know, it's older. I think it's a 2015. Anyway, so we have grant funding to buy a new vehicle through the CARES Act, needs-based. We applied to replace it. We use it for shift changes mostly, so drivers use it to go meet the bus up here, switch drivers and come back. And then they also will put it in, we used it quite a bit, actually a lot during COVID, because we could only put one person in a vehicle. We were kind of pulling every vehicle we could possibly pull. And so we used it a lot during COVID, and we use it a lot when the weather isn't great. So we wanted to replace it with an all-wheel drive. There's not a lot of electric all-wheel drives out there. And I presented to you guys last time about our options. I did have Kimberly do some research, and she reached out to all of the vendors to ask if what they had and what the prices were. We basically have two vehicles that we can purchase that are American made, all-wheel drive, and 100% electric. And that is a Ford Mach-E Mustang or a Tesla Y. And she went through and did all of the different, dimensions. And to make a long story shorter, we will be buying the Tesla Y, mainly because the clearance in the bottom of the Ford. So we went and drove the Ford Mustang Mach-E, which was fun. We didn't leave the parking lot, and we were both terrified at the time, but we did. And there's like, it's a Ford Mustang. So, I mean, it's made although it's four-door and it's all-wheel drive, it is a sports car. It sits very low to the ground. It would not be great in inclement weather, which is what we need. Whereas the Tesla Y has much more clearance at the bottom. And then when you look through the dimensions, it has a bigger back seat that you could put passengers in when you needed to during inclement weather.
Well, and that low profile close to the street, that sounds good for people that's gonna be transporting as far as.
It is pretty though, I'll show you. It's very pretty. There it is. It's very fast.
It's very fast.
It's very fast. It's very pretty. We actually got excited when we drove it and we were like, this could be great. It does have some great features. You can, but so does the Tesla. You can program the key so that it won't go over a certain mileage, and you can turn off the regenerative braking, which in an electric car is hard to get used to, where you don't really need your brake, because when you take your foot off the gas, it automatically kicks the brakes in. And I can just imagine our drivers going from a bus to that and being like, so that probably needs to be turned off. But we did get excited about it. But then when you go through the side by sides, the Tesla makes a lot more sense, and is a slightly more, I don't want to say bells and whistles, because it's not, but like the ability to program it to your specific needs is it's a little more techy. And just so you know, because I think I told you guys last time, the grant will cover everything. We have no match. It's fully paid for. We have $75,000 in that particular, no, 90. But I think the 90 was for the van and 75 was for this. We have 75,000. So it will cover the car, it'll cover the charging station, it'll cover the wrap, it'll cover winter tires to go along with it. It should be completely covered, and the city won't pay a penny for it. So, with that, I'm right on time.
It's nice to be meeting with good news.
Right? I know. So I hit you with all of the woes: driver shortage, our ops contract, RFP for ITS equipment. But the good news is we do have funding. We did get a bump in our federal funding. We did get a bump in our state funding. And we do have funding. So the van that was 90,000, it was supposed to be here already. It did get bumped, just like many other vehicles. It was canceled actually from the 2021 chassis because they didn't have them enough, and moved onto the 2022 chassis. It's supposed to still be here by late April, which is good. There are a couple of features that we required that are not going to be available. So we'll actually save a little bit of money, but we won't have like an automated driver step that comes out. That might be it. Or no, it was the passenger step that was automated. So that won't come out. Which I think the drivers don't like that in the permit ends anyway. So. Yeah. So we might save a little money and get a newer vehicle.
Well, considering the state of affairs this last 2 years, I don't think we're doing that badly.
I don't want to stop our conversation, but I am going to stop our recording. So I'm gonna call the meeting adjourned. Okay. Thank you.
And it's good that we have some reserve.
Ladies, I'm going to leave you. I want to thank you for allowing me to come to your meeting.
Thank you.